Adroit Project Engineering. I'd like to welcome everybody to this webinar session, part one, creating a new configuration. I'm just doing a quick sound check. Can everybody please just sound off in the comments if they can hear me? While we're waiting for those comments to come through, I'd just like to welcome everybody and thank them for joining us. This is the first in a series of episodes about project engineering with Adroit Smart UI. Just a quick introduction on my side. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Dean Gibson. My title at Adroit is a support and commercial support engineer. Typically, my role at Adroit, for those of you that haven't dealt with me before, is I'm a solutions expert with the products that we support. Primarily, it's the Adroit Smart UI SCADA. What we're going to be doing today is I'm going to show you how I kickstart a project. The project I'm going to be basing these configuration on is our Adroit certification exam. What I'll be doing is I'll be creating a new project within the support for this exam, and the next couple of episodes within this project engineering will be how I go about creating that certification exam. If everybody is happy to continue, it's a fairly short little webinar session here, so nothing too complex. The idea behind these series is that they will be aimed at new users of our software, but I'm hoping that the advanced users and the guys that have worked with the project will be able to maybe pick up some tips and also work with the product itself, learning to work with the product itself. All right, I think we're going to get started. So what we're going to be doing is I'm just going to be opening up our Adroit Config Smart UI Editor, Adroit Smart UI Editor. For those of you that are interested, the version that I'll be working in is 10.041. 10.05 is currently undergoing testing, and hopefully we should be releasing that soon as well. But for those of you that want to be able to work along and to do the engineering themselves, we'll be using 10.041. Inside the configurator, the place that you'll find your version is down here at the bottom. You can see if you can see my mouse down at the bottom there, that's where we'll check our version. So a lot of guys will tend to panic when they come in here and they open this up for the first time. Everybody should just take a nice calm breath, me included, so that we can work nicely through the configuration itself. There are a number of things that we'll be creating and working with today. First of all, though, is we're going to be creating a new configuration. So what that means is inside Adroit, we have a file structure typically that we will work with. What I'm going to do is I'm just quickly going to add in unfortunately I'm having a slight issue with my my desktop display, so I have to add these in manually here. So if everybody can just bear with me a little bit. But typically what this will be is that inside if you open up your file explorer, you'll be able to negotiate or navigate, I should rather say, to a file structure that Adroit creates when it creates a new configuration. The configuration itself is stored, let me just quickly pull this up here. I'll just quickly open this guy up. So what you'll see here is a window that I've opened here, File Explorer. Adroit, what it does is on your C drive, you'll see that there's a folder in there called Program Data. Inside Program Data, we'll have a folder structure under Adroit Technologies, and then Adroit, and then we move on to our configuration, and you'll see inside this folder here all of my projects that I create and I work on. Most of these configurations are based around certain clients, certain projects that I've worked with. You'll see a lot of them in here. For example, we have a folder structure in here that I call ADR Production. This is a configuration. This is our production server. This is where we host a lot of our IoT equipment for our clients on this particular little product over here on this folder structure. What happens is inside it, if we open up, I'm just going to go and open up ABC Spice. You'll see inside there we have default folders that are created for our project files that we'll be working with our new configuration. All right, so currently we don't have a configuration that we're going to be working with, so I'm going to go ahead and we're going to go and create a new one. Fairly straightforward. If we can just get rid of that file there for us. We're back on our Adroit Smart UI editor, config editor. The config editor itself is broken up into a number of areas. The default area, you'll see we'll have a little navigation structure on the side as we click on things, so that navigation structure will change and we can move back to where we were originally by either collapsing or then working on it. Alternatively, we can click on different areas on the right hand side. For example, here's my agent server configuration that we're looking at. So we can move around our configuration, and that's how we navigate around inside our config editor. The first area we're going to go along and work with is something called the configuration. For those of you that are opening this area up for the first time, typically what you'll find inside here is this little allow multiple configurations will be unchecked. This will give you a blank area. When we check it on for the first time, the first configuration that you'll see is your default configuration. So I'm just going to apply that quickly, that configuration. So now my setup has been configured for that default, and this will be where most people will work and create. But because we work on different configurations, we want to go ahead and we want to create a new structure and a new project structure for our new project that we're going to be working with. So the way I do that is we're going to go along and we're going to click on, there's a little button here on the side next to that apply. It's a little green button. What I'm going to do here is I'm just going to start up a little application so we can do some zooming in here. Just give me a sec. And we open that guy up and I'm just going to launch. I'll zoom it. Okay. So what we'll see here is we have inside this area. If we can see it, I don't think the zoom appears to be working. The zoom does not appear to be working. Well, that's not a problem. So what we're going to do is down at the bottom, you guys will see that you have a select configuration, an apply button, and then a little green circle with a plus button on it, and then a little garbage can next to it. So this garbage can will remove any configuration that I select. So if I'm going to change my configuration to demo here quickly, and then if I go along and I click on this button, this remove button, that'll then go ahead and remove that configuration from my machine. Be careful with this button as it'll remove all of those project files for this particular configuration that I've selected in there. The package Adroit will not allow you to remove an active configuration. So you'll see currently that we've got an active configuration above that select, which is set to default. So if I try and remove it, it'll tell me that it cannot be removed because it is currently an active configuration. One of the other things you'll see in this is that I've also set this particular configuration is set to full mode. Adroit comes in two flavors. It's a full mode and an HMI style mode, which is a stripped down version or a light version of Adroit. I think most people will be working with the full mode. All right, well, let's go ahead. I'm going to go ahead and click on this, this little add button over here. It now prompts me for a name, which I can add in here. Just while we're... Looks like we've got quite a few chats coming in. I see there as well. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go and give it a name. This name that I will be giving this will tie back to a project that I have defined. Like I said, I'm using the Adroit config certification exam. Adroit certification exam. You can access that exam by just contacting us, and we'll send you the documentation required to create it. Going through that documentation, it'll prompt us for different aspects of the project, what its requirements are. One of the things I've got in my requirements is I need to define a configuration, and this one that I'm going to do is called batching. We're going to be using the good old OPC batching server. For those of you that have been on training or worked with Adroit, the demo projects in Adroit will know this quite well. It's quite simple. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give it a name. What I can then do is I can specify whether this project must be based on an existing configuration. I can check that on. And then in a drop-down box, you will then see the configuration. Those of you, unfortunately, we're having some technical difficulties. Our drop-down boxes don't appear to be working, but never mind. We're not really interested in doing that. I'm going to create a base project. The other things that we can also do inside here is we can specify whether that project has default projects, which we can add or remove as required. I'm going to leave mine on. Typically, in most projects that I work with, I will create blank configurations and then set those configurations up as I require for my clients. But in our case, for this one, we're just going to leave our defaults in there so that we can work with them. The other one that it also refers to is including our default data sources. These are our connections to our different, where we're going to be pulling our data in from. We're going to leave that. The default data source we're interested in there is the Adroit data source. The Adroit data source connects by default to your local agent server. So that'll create a connection to your local agent server when you start that up. Again, if you're creating an enterprise type solution, you might not want those data sources. You might want to create your own. And within this environment, we can go ahead and do that. We can specify whether we want those. But for our purposes, we're going to have a default graphic form. All right. Next, moving on, is which configuration mode we'd like to use. I did mention this earlier. Up at the top, you'll see my active configuration is currently set to full mode. I'm going to leave mine on full. For those of you that are licensed for HMI, this is where you will specify your HMI configuration. Okay. I see I'm going a little bit too fast here. I'm just looking at the stream there. All right, so we've got the HMI clicked on. We can now go back to full mode. And we can, once we've got that done, what we can then do is I can go ahead and then click on the OK button. This will take a few minutes to do. What Adroit is now doing is it's going ahead and it's actually creating that configuration, that file structure for us in the back end. Once we get the, there'll be a little message box that'll pop up, and we'll then be able to refresh and have a look at our Windows Explorer, and then we'll be able to see that our configuration files are there. While we're waiting for that to happen, just like to find out if there's any questions or comments in the comment section there. Let's just have a look quickly. Let's pull it up. I see we've got a lot of guys sending their mornings and their hazards on the chat. Good morning to everybody that I haven't said good morning to. All right. So the config files, I've got a little message box that's popped up. Okay, I see we've got a quick question there from one of our participants. The HMI section in your is basically a light version of Adroit. What we've done is it's the price point is a bit lower than a full version. And there's also to facilitate that low price, we've reduced functionality within the product itself. What we can do is if you're interested more in the HMI, I would recommend having a look at our website, alternatively contacting one of your sales representatives or even the support department, the Adroit support department, and they'll be able to fill you in a little bit more on it. Okay, I've just got a message that says that my config files have been created and my properties have been set to their default values. I click the OK button and you'll see that everything changes there. My active configuration is now called batching. It's full mode. If I open up my Windows Explorer now, you'll see inside there that we should have a new folder structure inside there called batching. One of the things I like to do with this particular folder is I like to go and create additional folder structures in here. One of my favorite ones is the new folder to create in here is the documentation folder. Now, documentation, don't let my terrible spelling affect anybody. I hope that's right. That is correct. It's a blank folder. Why I create this particular folder structure in here is that I like to go ahead and I like to put all my documents that relate to this particular project in this folder structure. What happens then is when I do a backup of my project, it'll then grab everything that's inside of this particular folder structure and zip it up. So some guys like to keep PLC projects in here as well, things of that nature. I'm going to go, I've created my documentation, so I'm just going to jump out to where I've got my documentation that I've created for this. You'll see it's all sitting inside another folder here. I'm just going to copy them across quickly. And I'm going to open up my batching, open up my documentation, and I'm just going to go ahead and paste those files inside my batching project under documentation. Okay, I see we've got 10 minutes left on the clock here, so we're gonna start wrapping things up. Coming back to our configurator. A few things that I want to be able to do inside here as well before I start anything. I want to just change a few of my configurations for this particular setting. Anything I change now will relate directly to this active configuration. So I'm just going to go ahead. I'm going to go to my agent server configuration under agent server. Inside here, we'll see we've got a project name of Adroit. I'm just going to go ahead once my stream is caught up. Agent server configuration, there it is. Should be popping up now. You'll see inside that we've got a server project name. I'm just going to go ahead and going to give it my project name a new name. I'm going to give it the same as my configuration, and I'm going to call this batch _01 for my agent server name. The reason I do this is this project requires me to have multiple agent servers working in tandem in clustered situations. So I'll need to be able to rename my servers, give them specific names. So in this case, My agent server name is batch_01. The secondary server will then be batch_02. All right. Next thing we're going to do is if I scroll in my WGP file path here, if we scroll all the way to the end, for those of you that can see it, under my configuration, you'll see there's the full path to that configuration folder that we created. And inside there, we're going to create a new WGP file called batching.wgp, and we're happy with that name. And then the last thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to go along and go to my driver configuration. I have a list of protocol drivers available to me inside the driver config. I've already created a number of devices in here. These are common. These devices are common to all projects, all configurations. So if you do create a device in one configuration, it is available in other multiple configurations. Under the OPC client protocol driver, that's the protocol I'm going to be working with. I've created a device called batch already. If we open him up, I don't know, that won't pop through, but I've configured this particular device to connect to my local batch OPC server. All right, and I am configured. There are obviously a lot of other settings we can go ahead and change. Configure this as per our client's request. But for now, these are all the configuration that we need for our particular configuration. And I hope everybody got a bit of interesting things out of there. What I'm going to do is I'm going to just turn us over to the comment section for a bit, see if anybody's got any comments. Wait for the comment sections to pull up. And then, yeah, guys, if you have any questions regarding adding and creating a new configuration, I'd like to hear it. As I said, one of the great benefits of this particular function of Adroit, this configuration, is that I can work with multiple projects without there being bleed over from one into the other. I can define look and feels per configuration. Graphic forms can be unique to those configurations as well, or I can use graphic forms that I've created in previous configurations in my new one. Then one of the other benefits is, of course, is when I back up my my configuration, all of that configuration then is captured for me, and I can transfer that to a machine that has the exact same operating system. And setup is very important that those machines, when you restore a configuration, your operating systems, etc., are the same as your original process. All right. I'm looking at the comment section. I don't see any chats coming through, any questions coming through. So I guess I'm really good at this webinar demoing stuff. Guys, I'm glad that you were able to join us. I will be leaving the stream going for a little bit to see if there's any more questions that come through. Performance anyway. I see we've got can the AS and project name be the same? No, the AS and project name must not be the same. They're used in different, it's in different contexts. So a project name will typically be used across multiple agent servers. On the agent servers themselves, you'll need to have a unique name for each agent server that belong to a specific project. So if you want agents to share information, they need to be the same name the project names must be the same. Genre, yes. Performance Anywhere, that will be one of our future videos, I'm sure. It's not on the slate at the moment, but I'm sure we can slot it in. It is a great product, and we're actually using it quite successfully in a few of our newer applications. Obviously, with everybody being, one of our big things that we're finding is with people being away from the office, not being in the office and not being on the plant. They want to be able to check, and we wanted a light client, and that Performance Anywhere really fills that gap quite nicely for that. Yes, the backup of Richard's backup of Adroit function. Yes, the backup is an Adroit function. It is a function of Smart UI only. So if you are running Classic, that backup doesn't work. That function doesn't work in the old Classic package, but in Smart UI, that backup function is important. Rudy, I see yes. Obviously, worrying about hard drive crashes when you lose everything is obviously important. We need to have, regarding hard drive crashing and that type of thing, we need to take a wider view of the infrastructure around it, a more, let's say, a holistic view, if you will, of your product. I would recommend looking at a clustered hard drive. What do they call it now? Where we clone our drives. That's one way of getting around it. Also making sure that your machine is on UPS is obviously vital. One of the leading causes of hard drive failure is power. And that's not just loss of power, but unclean power. A lot of guys will do is they'll put a genset in, and some of these gensets aren't great, and the power, or even if the utilities that you're getting from your municipality or your power supplier is not great, it's not clean, sparks in it, it will generate issues on your machine, hardware failures, etc. So it is highly recommended that we have UPSs and the like, and obviously we make sure that we have a backup regime as well for our software and hardware. Hardware does fail, that is just the nature of our beast. Okay, let's have a look here. What else have we got? Is configuration of Adroit 10 similar to Adroit 8? Genre, yes. Adroit 10 and Adroit 8, the configuration files are very similar. Obviously, as we add new functionality to our product, that does require new configuration that does come across. So typically, you can quite easily move from an Adroit 8 to an Adroit 10 system. I know that we have bumped heads with that. Rudy, I'm sure, can sound off in the comments, but we were able to come right with that and fix the problem there with him. But typically, it is a seamless migration from Adroit 8 to Adroit 10. Obviously, if we want to move back to Adroit 8, that then becomes an impossibility due to the fact that it is not compatible. That backwards compatibility does not, or I should say forwards compatibility is not supported. Can you give a new configuration in a real-world project? I can. So typically, a real configuration in real world, any project that you start would have to be a new configuration, Bruce. Real-world project, I think, if I can just off the top of my head, I would typically say look at a water utility. I have a number of clients that I deal with in the water industry, and there is a lot of bleed over between configurations. So obviously we have to take into account IP of the client. Can you share those graphics or those configurations with each other? Most people, I'm sure, are quite happy to do that. A lot of SIs, system integrators, will also have similar configurations. They specialize in industries. So another example of that would be belts and conveyors or material handling in South Africa's mining industry. We have there are guys that do create configurations and then share those configurations across their different projects, and they create new configurations for each client. Project's in a fold in the roots. Okay, Marius, let's have a read here. I have an existing classic Adroit. The project is in a folder in the root. I will need to move the project to program data, Adroit configuration folder, before I convert to Smart. Your classic Adroit configuration can stay in its original root directory if you so desire. Obviously, the backing up of that project will then, that won't, when we back up, we will obviously then need to configure the backup to take into account that your routing has changed. And those settings can be done in your system backup folders. And you can add those routes to it for backupping. However, converting to a true Smart UI project where we're using the conversion, I would recommend getting in contact with our support department around the process there. There is quite obviously the biggest problem there is our pathing and making sure that all our paths link up to the existing and the new files. Voter, if you select a different active project, does it automatically load the correct WGP file and graphic forms, data source, or do you need to check? No, Voter, that's one of the beauties of this particular configuration is that we save those pathing and those things in each configuration. So the graphic forms, the WGP files, all of that will be loaded according to how it was configured. So in my configuration, you saw I had a whole bunch of different configurations in it. All I needed to do is just say today I'm working with the batch configuration, and then tomorrow I wish to work with another client, water utilities, for example. I will just go along, select that configuration, apply it, and it will load that client's WGP file and graphic forms and data source, etc., as you mentioned in it. All right, guys. I'd like to thank everybody for participating. I'm going to sign off. Thanks everybody for participating. Again, if you have any questions, please feel free to contact our support department. You can get a hold of us through our website, adroittechnologies.co.za. We also have, you can contact me directly. My email is deang@adroit.co.za. You can contact me through that email, or again through our website. Our next stream, I believe Sam is, our guys have set up a new web stream for tomorrow. It starts at the same time, 11 o'clock. I'm sure our marketing people have sent out the mails. If we have a look here, I'm just looking at our marketing stream here. And I believe it starts, yes, 23rd. The topic will be demo and discussion on the MQT and M2M protocols, both very exciting protocols in our IoT offering. We're doing quite a lot of work around them, and hopefully you guys will be as excited about those two new protocols as I am. And yeah, thanks everybody for joining, and hope to chat to you soon when our next topic comes up. Thanks, guys.